Hey guys, I wanted to go over something with you inside of Photoshop as we get into this next project. We've not used any continuous tone or images or photographs just yet. We've been drawing everything inside of InDesign up to this point, and we haven't really dealt with imported graphics, and there's a reason for that. That it kind of complicates things, and there's a lot more you've got to pay attention to. So I kind of wanted to show you something inside of Photoshop that will help us on this next project. So first off, you can't really trust what you see all the time in terms of when you pull in an image, even though Adobe makes it pretty easy to kind of utilize any image or import any image. You can easily drag and drop images of all formats into your InDesign document. But that doesn't necessarily mean it's the proper way to do things. And so I want to go over some Photoshop basics with you. And the first thing is when we get inside of the Photoshop, and you may be using a little bit different version of mine or a different version than I've got, but it should work just fine. But one thing we want to look at, if you have your properties panel up, you can see that this is telling me that the image is only 72 pixels per inch. So 72 pixels per inch is good for on-screen use, like for websites and things like that, social media. But for printing, we really need to be at 300 pixels per inch is kind of the rule of thumb. You can go with a little bit less than that, maybe down to 225 pixels per inch. But 72 pixels per inch will end up printing rather pixelated or blocky and blurry. And so if we don't want to do that, and if you're not paying attention to the properties panel, you can look at image and image size, and you need to get real familiar with image size, because image size allows you to kind of resample, meaning scale up, scale down the resolution, and you can't just simply come in here. I mean, you can, but it's not necessarily going to give you the best results. You can't really come in here and say, hey, Mr. Downey said make it 300 pixels per inch, so I'm going to make it 300 pixels per inch. But you can see that when we zoom in, you see how blurry and pixelated that is. That's kind of what you're going to get when you print. So you can't just kind of come in here and do what we call an upscale. In this case, I really tried to add resolution. I told it to resample that, and it's really not the best practice. So you can hold down Option and kind of reset to kind of see where you were. So if I wanted to make this 300 pixels per inch, I would take resample off, and what this allows you to do, it allows me to have it at the right resolution. But look what it did to the file size. It knocked it down to less than 2 inches by just a little bit more than an inch. So if I were to kind of use this, it would be much smaller. It would be kind of in this range in here, and obviously that's a little too small for the book cover that we're working on. But if we were working on something where I needed a bunch of small pictures, then I might be able to use this image at that size. But the key with using images with print documents is you want to make sure that they're at least 300 pixels per inch or somewhere in that neighborhood. You can get by with a little bit less than that. More resolution doesn't really necessarily mean it's going to print sharper. You're just going to end up with a much bigger file size. It's going to be a little bit more of an issue to get through your networking, and it's going to take longer for the RIPs at the printers to process this file. So be careful with that. But we go into image size, back to where we were. This was the original image size, about 4:7 at 72. Again, that would be fine for web use and social media posts and things like that, for on-screen use, but not necessarily for print. And again, we want around 300. So if I were to take resample off, change that to 300, it's going to make the image much smaller. Think about it. It's basically squeezing those pixels closer together. That's why the image gets smaller, because now we've got 300 individual pixels per inch, and the pixel data is still there, but it's probably too small for us to use. Let's look at another image real quick. So I've got one here, and again, at a glance, we look at it and you go, well, you know, if I look at my properties, this is 300 pixels per inch at 10 by 10. And for what I'm trying to do with my book cover, which is approximately 8.5 by 11, then this would be okay. You can remember, you can get by with anywhere from about 225 to 300, but you want to get the file to be the right size before you import it into InDesign. I can't emphasize that enough. Those are things that I'm going to be looking at as I grade your files. Is I'm looking at how did you build the file. And that's the kind of one of the underlying themes of what we do with our training at LCC is we really want you to be able to build responsible, efficient files. Anybody can drag and drop JPEGs into images, and the end result might look fine on screen, but when it goes to print is when you're going to run into issues. So it's real important to build the file correctly, and we want to build efficient files, meaning I don't want to bring in an image that's 2 inches by 2 inches and I scale it up huge to a huge size in InDesign, because again it's doing the same thing over here where I'm upsampling, adding pixels, and the resolution is not going to be very good. So if I look at this image and I'm trying to get this to be about 8.5 by 11, and if I look at this image, it's 10 by 10 at 300, I've got enough pixel data here. I'm going to leave resample checked in this case, and I'm going to say, hey, make this, maybe 12 high, and that will give me enough room. And I am upsampling a little bit, but I do have enough pixel data here where it's not going to really affect the print quality in the end. If you want to be safe, you can take off resample, change this to 11, but watch what it does. I think I had it at 12, but watch what it does to the resolution. If I change this to 12, it knocks the resolution down to 250, which again is acceptable. What I said is 225 to 300 is perfect for what we want. So I've got enough pixel data here, and if you don't, you want to find an image that you've got a higher resolution image. So we subscribe to a service called Shutterstock, and you're free to submit me ID numbers of the images that you would like to use on your project, or you can go find your own high resolution images. But remember, drag them into Photoshop, look at the image size, see if there's enough pixel data there to start with. If not, and you can look at the file size. This is 25 megabytes, so that's telling me that there's something to that, as opposed to this image I just grabbed off the web over here. It was pretty small. It's only 520K. So just looking at the file size, that's a clue right there that there's probably not enough pixel data there. It's not high enough resolution. That's kind of what we're getting at. We need the resolution to be, again, 225 to 300. And once the resolution is there, which you've already confirmed that, you can set your crop tool because the resolution is there. I'm going to come over here and say do width, height, resolution, and say make it 12 by 12 at 250, I think is what it was saying it was going to be. And then once I hit crop, it does kind of the same thing. Now mine was actually set on pixels, that's why it got real small, turned into a little dot. So I'm going to tell it it's 12 by 12 inches. I've got to set my units inside of Photoshop. But anyway, when I do that, and here we go, we've got it at 12 by 12. And you can see that it's at 250. So now one of the next steps that we state inside of the project is to change this from RGB to CMYK. And to do that, I can simply go to CMYK, but what I'm trying to point out to you inside of the information inside of Moodle is that it's going to bring you this little alert here saying, hey, I'm going to use this US Web Coded Swap version 2 profile if that's okay. And all that's saying is that Photoshop is making this decision based on what you have set when I go from RGB to CMYK. Well, why does that matter? Well, the RGB color range, or what we call gamut, is much larger than the CMYK gamut or color range. And so when we convert, some colors may not be reproducible with CMYK printers. That's what most printers operate on, especially digital presses, cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. Whereas RGB is really for like photographs and looking at things on screen. So what it's saying is, hey, you may get a color shift, and Photoshop has something inside of the view menu called gamut warning. And in this case, it's not showing me anything, which means that, hey, when I convert this to CMYK, it should be fine. Let me show you an example of what it would do. Let me add an adjustment layer to this real quick, and I'll kind of show you what it does. I don't have any really crazy color on here, but let me really oversaturate this color quickly. And then when I come over here to gamut warning, it's going to say, hey, these areas that are highlighted are going to shift or not reproducible by CMYK. And so when I go from RGB to CMYK using that particular profile, it's going to get a little bit of color shift. Now, it's very subtle. You and me probably aren't going to be able to tell that difference, but if you pay attention to where it was highlighted, these areas in his ears, especially on this side, it may get a little bit of color shift. So let's see what happens. If I go to CMYK color, it's going to give me that warning. It's going to, hey, it wants to flatten, that's okay. And then here's the warning on the profile. I can hit OK. And I mean, it shifted very subtly, and I'm going to undo so you can kind of see if it changed from RGB back to CMYK. And again, it's very subtle, but it could be more drastic on an image that had much more color saturation than what I'm working with on this particular image. So after you convert it to CMYK, the last step is, to save this as a TIFF. So we're going to go to, and I'm going to name it Little Puppy, if I could type. And then I'll save this as a TIFF. So why a TIFF? Well, a TIFF is what we call lossless compression, meaning that, and then we want this LZW. That is a German, some German names here that these guys that came up with this compression scheme. But we want to make sure that's checked, and we hit OK. And what a TIFF with LZW compression allows you to do is it doesn't degrade quality. So it's what we call lossless compression. So with JPEGs, when you save a file as a JPEG, it's going to give you options to say, hey, what compression do you want me to use, or what quality do you want me to use? Because it's going to actually throw out quality and make the image fuzzy or blurry. So, and JPEGs again are for on-screen use. It's really not a print file format. So pay attention to those details. I'm going to be looking for those things when I'm grading your file. Once you get the file saved as a TIFF, you're going to place that into InDesign, and within InDesign, pay attention to your links panel. Once that image is imported, make sure your resolution is correct, make sure your file, your color mode is correct, and make sure your file format is correct. In this case, we want a 250 to 300 pixel per inch image saved as a CMYK TIFF. That's kind of what we're trying to do for every image that we're using on this particular project. Those of you that are creating things inside of Illustrator and saving them as vectors, it doesn't really matter. Again, you can import an Illustrator file right into InDesign. I would prefer you to save that Illustrator file as an EPS file, encapsulated PostScript file, and place that into InDesign. If you need transparency, that's a couple of other steps. What I would do if I had this image with a white background in Photoshop and I wanted it to be transparent, I'm going to double click the background layer, convert that to a regular layer, and then I'm going to use one of my selection tools, if I could find it somewhere in here. And I'll just grab my magic wand, and you got select background. I mean, there's all kinds of things that you can do now. We can do select subject in here automatically, and it's going to grab that. My computer's a little bit slow. You can then delete the background and my additional. And once I do that, I can just hit, whoops, I got the wrong thing. I was at select subject. I'm going to go to select and invert the selection. I can hit delete. Now I've got a transparent background. TIFF allows you to save that transparency as well. So when I go to save as, that's another advantage of a TIFF. You can do transparency. Right here, if I say save transparency, that's fine. Then I could import that into InDesign and put that on any other background. Again, this is things I'm going to be looking for on this particular project. Make sure you follow those instructions carefully so that, and again, it's about building efficient files that are put together properly. That's kind of what we're shooting for. Thank you.